Dear diarrhea, diarrhea full of shit. Just play along, me, myself, and I, and no one else. Yo, I'm so legit. I like to eat, 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 eat. Ooples and bananas. I like to eat, 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 eat. Broccoli and potatoes. What? Apples and bananas, broccoli and potatoes. I like potatoes just fine. Potatoes hold for a long time. You don't need to refrigerate them, and they last for like, a month. Same thing with onions. You might need to kind of peel off some of the outer layers that got a little brown, but they hold, man. So, good stuff. But, man, I noticed that this Ruby De Rossi chick, she has a video where she kind of like jumps and spreads her legs out and kind of boom brings her hips forward, forcefully. Now you can't see her ass cheeks clap together from the front forward, butt cleavage because of the shorts she's wearing. I'm not sure if she could get, those cheeks moving, if she was just like in a thong or whatever. I'm thinking she can because she's got, the cheeks for that because she did one of her shorts where she kind of boop 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 kind of raised her right hip, and it kind of shook it and it kind of got her cheeks bouncing a little bit. I think there's another short where they kind of bounce a little bit. So if there is, I've got it saved, and then I may or may not decide to put it on my phone, and all that, just depending. Yeah. And then I can put it on a loop, if I want to do something like that. Like I said, I get pretty creative. But um, but I might have to scour her site to see if she's got any stuff like that. And if she does requests, I guess it doesn't hurt to give it a whack. I've got a few videos like that, probably 4 or 5, where you occasionally stumble across a chick, where she never, well, there's this one where this chick just absolutely, she kind of does them in a circle, just like ba-boom, 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 and then back and forth real quick, just bam, 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 bam. And it was actually like this, like British, like wet t-shirt contest. Um, So she had on like a white crop top and like a pink, thong, but it wasn't like super sexy in the front or anything. Um, yeah, I got one, two out of that. Um, so yeah, I probably got more than 4 or 5. I probably got more like 7 or 8, where the chick is just like, most of it's usually just sort of a mistake, she just sort of brings her hips around or whatever, and boom, boom, there we go. But the one, it was just like, fuck, that super direct. But I'm not sure, and she had like larger ass cheeks. So when she brought them together, I mean, they were just like, oh, hello. Um, but anyway, so I think this Ruby De Rossi chick, she's got the right ass cheeks for it. Like if Hibbery Dibbery tried to do that, in theory, it's like shit. She could really, you know, get some clap. You know what I mean? But they're made out of clay, so she couldn't do that if she fucking had to. You know, but then there's that chick that I saw at that uh, grocery store. I don't know, about 2 months ago or whatever. That I forget the name of it, but it was like a discount, grocery store where she was just like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, she had like a normal. She wasn't like super thin or petite or anything. She just had like a normal ass. But shit, it had jiggle and wiggle, and bounce. And I bet you she could get them cheeks really, So, speaking of which, Katie Boo, I was just sort of doing some masturbating to you this morning. size some shit up. When you go and pour you a glass of hooch, um, you're kind of to the side. You can kind of see, kind of where your butt crack ends. You know what I mean? So, like I said, you're one of these chicks who's like fit. You've got really nice shaped ass cheeks, but I think they're really like firm and muscular. It would appear that they do cheek up, so you get that crease where ass meets thigh and whatnot. Um, but and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. And I just was sort of, and then I had the one where I kind of got your legs, as close together, like you were standing, because you were walking. So it's like, okay, so when you bring this leg forward, okay, take a picture of that, email it to myself, size it up, see if I got a template for that. I may or may not. I just kind of need to find one. Or I can make one. It's like, okay, this is a little bit too tall. It doesn't size up right. Because you've kind of, you're a petite little girl, right? Um, so you've kind of got like a shorter torso. So it's like this would work, but when I size it up, okay, shoulders match, all this matches, but if I match this bottom of these ass cheeks to her ass cheeks, the hip straps are like go damn near up to her tits. And it's like, well, I could size that down a little bit. And sometimes I just have to completely remake shit. You know what I mean? Because I have different templates. And don't worry, I'll get you taken care of. Or maybe I'll just email you today with your poem. So, yeah. So, they have that program. I have it saved that Mr. Pellet was talking about, but I'd need to use that on a computer. I think I don't think it would work on a phone because a lot of times when stuff is on your phone, even though you have smartphone, have access to the internet, uh, it doesn't have as much functionality as if you had a computer. You don't need a full blown desktop. You can just get away with a laptop, but it just needs to be a computer. So, and I do have a laptop, but it's like fucking 1,000 years old. Don't know what garbage might be still on it, just laying dormant. So when I hooked it up, it would just be on all of my devices. So I'll just go get me a middle of the road laptop with none of the bells and whistles, and recruit my dumb shit brother-in-law to help me set it up with virus protection and all that stuff, and all that stuff that I've been meaning to do, get a VPN and all that. There's a service that they have. I used to have it that does actually protect you. Like if someone steals your identity, they like help you recover from that. I used to belong to them. My dad still does. Man, I forget what it's called though. And I think it might be a VPN as well, or maybe it is now these days. Because, like I said, all of my other phones, I leave them on airplane mode. And I guess it doesn't really make much of a difference if you leave them on or off. But I usually turn mine off, you know what I mean? Because, if I just use this phone, it's like, a masturbatory phone, and I never, then I'll, turn that off for, 20 hours in a 24-hour day, versus turning it off, for 8 to 10 hours every night, it's like, well, 8 to 10, okay, but 20 to 22, well, now we're kind of leaning towards more. Well, I'll go ahead and shut it off. So, because there's that whole argument. If you're not really using it and you close all your apps and don't have a lot of apps on it, it just uses a trickle of energy. So the very act of like turning it on, that surge of energy there, does that wear it out quicker? And I remember they did that on Mythbusters, that old show back in the day, with light bulbs. And it turns out it is better to turn the light off, when you leave a room versus, leave it on. You know, the argument is, the act of turning it on is going to, wear it out faster. And then you have to buy a new bulb. They busted that. So, plus light bulbs these days are, oh, what the fuck are they? They're not the old ones with the filament, I'm not even sure what they are. Guess I'll have to look that up. There's different kinds. But they last a lot longer and they're a lot brighter and, yeah. So that might be something that I would look into instead of, making a crude, collage and then taking a picture of that and then having that as a template. Maybe I need, I could look into that. Oh, I forget what it was even called, but apparently you can just take pictures, like I could take, I don't know how it would work. Like I've heard of Photoshop and stuff before, which I thought about getting into in the past and whatnot, but never got around to it. Because like I said, the way that I do things works. It fucking works, you know what I mean? So I don't know how I would get that, walking into the kitchen to pour you some hooch. I'm not sure how I would, get your spandex shorts off of you and, in digital form, put a properly cut, properly shaped, and properly worn whale tail, and I could even give you maybe put you a little thong pussy hammock down there, as I'm not sure how that would work, but something that I might, look into. So, anyway, it's funny that Rube de Rase message that I got back. It was something like, I might unsend it later, so click it now before, you lose the opportunity. Oh, shut up, you hussy. Honestly. It is what it is, you're getting content, it's just, that's a little low class in my opinion, the act now, oh, shut the fuck up, subscription, pay for every picture, hurry, it might go away. Well, I guess I won't get the video watched. And like I said, it's most likely all AI, I will do that. I'll do that today. I'll say, do you take requests? And then, I don't know, we'll see what it says. Because if I were to ask, something like, what's your favorite food? AI could, come up with something. But, because like I said, I'm trying to kind of be trolling. Like that one comment. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I said, I bet you lay awake at night wishing you had a real man, huh? All that. Just sort of, kind of being playful / trolling, but not too disrespectful, Keep it on the easy, You slut, shit. Can't blame her a damn bit. Can you? Shit. Hey, fellas, all my real ones out there, wouldn't it be nice if we were sitting on a gold mine? Quite literally. Like it's a different world for like the gay dudes, you know what I mean? That's, whatever, I'm just saying. I'm not gay, curious, or bi. Or I guess if I did that in order, it would be gay, bi, or curious. But how can we say it like that? Because I saw it was a magazine one time, and I remember that. Anyway, But I'm also not a homophobe or anything, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, if a chick is, riding a dude, it's like that Ron White joke, Oh, we're a faggot, this faggot. Well, we're all a little gay, just to what degree? Man, I ain't no faggot, You like porn? Yeah, I love porn, you know that. Well, when you're seeing a chick getting plowed, do you want to see, a studly stallion with a big horse dick or some little dude with a Twinkie Winkie? I want to see a dude with big stallion horse dick. Oh, I did not know that about myself. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's part of the equation. You know what I mean? So, like, what's his name? He since passed away, unfortunately. I'll go ahead and name drop him. I mean, he got pneumonia, but he's still got good content out there, for people to check into. A little bit haughty, I believe the word is what Mr. Pellet said. And haughty, spelled like Haughty, means like arrogant. And he was definitely that, but he had made some good points. Coach Red Pill. He had said something like, have you ever wondered if you're gay? Well, it's really simple. Do you find dicks attractive? It's like, well, I have a dick. I know what it feels like to be horny, and how my dick feels and this, that, and the other. So it's like, no, dicks in and of themselves, I have no desire to like suck a dick or anything, but, they're part of the equation, okay? There needs to be a good looking dick in my, themes that I make, you know what I mean? So, some fucking dude, he's got to be circumcised, he's got to have a decent, nutsack, ratio, you know what I mean? It's not all dicks are created equal. So I'm not going to use this dick in my theme, but I'm going to use this one. So a lot of people would say, well, you're just straight up fucking gay. No, no. I think it's disgusting. I think it's a miswire, but if you're creating erotic material, you need to have a good looking dick. And preferably the guy who's attached to it isn't some sort of schlub either. You know what I mean? So that's that. Sounds pretty gay, doesn't it? Well, that's you. Okay, whatever. Like I said, I kind of tend to look at all human beings as just objects with personalities anyway. So, anyway. So I got to say, baby, hey, yay, yay, yay. I checked out that Ray's book corner. She's so gosh darn cute. Hi, my name's Ray. This is my book corner. I think I already said this in another audio presentation. I believe the word is pansexual. I bet you she has no sexual desire whatsoever. Probably doesn't even have a desire for intimacy. Like, lovey, lovey, cuddle. This is my boyfriend. Oh, man, what kind of dude does a chick like that pull? Oh, man. But she needs friendship. She needs, social settings, both male and female. That's the thing. She's the type of girl who would truly. So the little boys who are in her life, because she's 20 years old, going to college, getting a degree in, navel gazing, and she's going to write a bunch of books. So she's going to have not only a bachelor's but a fucking master's in navel gazing, with extra. What do they call those? I forget. The extra stuff. You got the core stuff. You got to take then she'll take like an extra like in painting, and another extra in basket weaving, or no crocheting. So she's gonna, you know what I mean. So she's well rounded, but and she's gonna go into debt for all that shit, and she's gonna write books and go to book signings and sign her name and who do I make it out to, dream big, blah blah blah, and all this, right, she's gonna ruin her life, but well, she won't ruin it. She'll just always be in debt, She would never, most people, the debt that they carry for their basically most of their life is when they eventually buy a house, you know. And it depends on if you're the type of person that needs to have a nice car and upgrade it every 5 years and this, that, and the other. But that girl, she will never own a house. She will always be a renter. But she will always have a quote unquote mortgage. Now, it won't be the same as a house, but, she'll be 200,000, in debt or whatever. And she will never be able to pay it off. Ever, 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 ever. Unless she finds, marries a dude who's well off. And a chick like that, I just don't see it happening. Not until, well, maybe later in life, when she's in her upper 20s, like Ruby De Rossi, for example, her hubby bear, who may or may not exist. Like I said, she is making millions, so maybe she just has a nice house and she's a bachelorette. That's not how chicks work. And I didn't hear this anywhere. I'm just sort of making this up on the spot, but guys can be single and all that stuff. Chicks need to be in a relationship. Every now and then they need to have that itch scratched sexually, but mostly they just need a person to be intimate with. They need to share a bed with somebody. They need to share life with somebody, because on a subconscious level, it's like, it's status. It's showing to the world, yes, I'm in a relationship. I could change this relationship, but, as dudes, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But, a chick, it's like, what's her deal? Is she widowed? How come she's not with a man? So it's just keeps everybody not judging you. Oh, it's her boyfriend. Oh, okay. So, as where if she doesn't have that boyfriend, it's like, how come you don't have a boyfriend? Versus if she has a boyfriend, people may or may not, it's just like that's normal. If a guy doesn't have a girlfriend, nobody could care less. If that guy hasn't had a girlfriend in years, nobody could care less or even know. I've never seen him with a girl, whatever. They don't think, is he gay? Is he this, that, and the other? They don't give a fuck. But if a girl is, always alone, they're like, So, I'm right. If you didn't, you do now. At least you should, if you know what's good for you. If you know what's good. But, so, I see that girl as the kind of girl who needs, interaction and communication with both females and males. And she has like absolutely no sexual desire or desire for intimacy. She just has desire. She needs to be social. She needs to interact with other human beings and share ideas and feelings and stuff. So she's not. It's like it doesn't even occur to her that this silly boy that she's talking to, has a crush on her. Or she is 20 years old. So she's probably aware of some things, the way the world works. It's like this friend, the friend zone, it's like he secretly wants to have sex with you. He secretly wants to be your boyfriend, and she may or may not recognize that. Maybe she does, but he's like, oh, he's nice, maybe that's how he feels, but he knows that's not how I feel. And, he respects my boundaries and he knows that we're just friends. One of these days, he's going to get tired of beating off to the thought of you, and he's going to work up the nerve and be like, I'm going to get some coffee sometime, But we're having coffee right now. I mean, maybe we could. I was thinking, we've been friends a long time, right? Yeah, you consider me a good friend, right? Yeah, you're one of my best friends. I can confide in you. You this, that, and the other. Or he'd probably bring that up. You can confide it and tell me, I've told you all my secrets. So he'd be like, yes, I know. Some of them I wish you wouldn't. And he's like, well, kind of bashful a little bit. Kind of trying to assess how things are going. And then he just blurts it out. I was thinking maybe we could just become, a thing. She'd be like, oh, or whatever, so it's that, yeah, that's, oh, look, look at the little bookworm, oh, shit.